Hi guys, welcome back to this podcast. Welcome to the Differently Mom podcast. I am so grateful that you guys are tuning in, wherever you're tuning in from, if it's from YouTube or from the podcast platform. I'm super grateful. I also would like to share with you that I am super joyful. I love this podcast. I really, truly love it with my whole being. I love filming those episodes. I love scripting it for you. I really feel like I found something that I really enjoy a lot. And that's also why this podcast episode is happening a lot earlier than I was planning on posting it. Initially, I was planning on putting it online in a week and a half. But in the end, I was like, you know what? I want to film it now. I have the inspiration. I'm going to do it now. So this is exactly me basically following my desire, following my joy, following my heart right now, and recording this episode, even though I had put an arbitrary planning that I was going to do it later. Anyways, this is not the topic of this podcast. Today, we're going to be talking about self-love. We're going to be talking about how to start your self-love journey. And oh my gosh, am I taking on a challenge? I'm taking on a challenge because I feel like talking about self-love is very difficult. It's almost as if how do you start talking about this topic? Because it's so big. Self-love just really is all-encompassing. It affects every single area of our lives. And sometimes I feel like a little bit underqualified as well to talk about such a topic at such a young age. I'm only 21. And so I'm also thinking you know what? I'm sure I have something to say. And if I feel in my heart that I have something to say, is that there's probably something there that will be useful for one of you guys. So today we're going to be debunking the myth that self-love is selfish. And then we're going to be walking through basically the transtheoretical model of change. So that's a habits change model, and using that model to talk about how to start your self-love journey. So we're going to be using a psychological model that already exists, that has been created, and we're going to apply that to self-love together to basically create this unique podcast episode, this unique framework to start this journey of self-love, because it's one that's difficult to start. So let's now talk about why. Why is it that I'm dedicating a whole podcast episode about this topic on self-love? Why am I doing this? The first reason is because I've promised you guys that I was going to do a topic about it in my previous episode all about boundaries. But the second reason is because I truly wholeheartedly believe that getting to a place where you truly love yourself, and when I say truly love yourself, I mean you're not just buying yourself a candle, buying yourself flowers in an attempt to love yourself. No, these things are nice, but they will not do anything for you, really, if you don't first go to the root of it. It's almost as if you buy yourself candles, you buy yourself flowers, you give yourself a nice bath or whatever it is. All of these things are nice, but they're almost like a plaster solution. It's almost as if you're just treating the symptom rather than treating the cause. And again, with this podcast, I don't want to do the surface level. I want to go deep. I want to help you to go to the cause and help you figure out the things at the cause, transmute those, change those, heal those, so that you can heal from the ground up. And then the flowers and the candles will naturally come. They won't be a thing where I have to buy myself flowers because that's what some random girl on TikTok said, that if you want to have self-love, well, buy yourself flowers. No. Whenever you truly get to a point where you love yourself, these things will come naturally. You're not going to have to think about, I think I should be doing this because then it shows that I love myself. No. You will have the desire to do these things for yourself, but that's because you've fixed the root first. So yeah, I really believe that when you get to that place of truly loving yourself, after you've gone to the root and healed from the ground up, it will be an all-encompassing change on your life in a way that it will change the decisions you make. And if you change a lot of the decisions you make, because now you're making decisions of a place of loving yourself rather of a place of fear, rather of a place of not liking yourself as much, or sometimes even hating yourself, when you're able to come from a place where you love yourself, then the decisions that you make will change. And when the decisions that you make on your day-to-day life change, your life will change. The life that you see, the life that you have will be completely transformed when you get to a place that, now I'm making decisions based on my happiness, my truth, my peace, my love, okay? And not from a place of fear and I should, and somebody told me to do this. No, if it comes from a place of fully this is what I want for myself, because I know that this will make me happy, this will bring me to the next level, then your whole life will change. And so this is the reason why I'm making this podcast episode, is because I really wholeheartedly, truly want you guys to get to a place where your life changes, because the decisions that you now make have changed. And the decisions that you make have changed because now you're making decisions from a different point. You're making decisions from a place of self-love rather than self-hatred, rather than from a place of maybe forgetting yourself all the time and putting others first. Do you follow what I'm trying to say? All of this is the reason why I really truly feel that this podcast episode has such an important place on this channel, and it's such an important topic to talk about. And I know this is the first one. I know that I probably will talk about this topic again and again. And we'll actually be talking about this topic of self-love and how to start your self-love journey from the perspective of a behavior, a habit change model called the transtheoretical model of change. And the reason why I'm using this is because if you actually look at it, going from a place of not self-love to a place of self-love is actually at its core and at its simplest form a habit change. It's a habit change in the way you think and in the way you feel about yourself. And so I thought that it would be quite good to actually use this model of change, this transtheoretical model, to allow me to explain this maybe a little bit clearer and with a clearer framework. So we'll be talking about the different stages of this model and applying that to the self-love journey and getting to a place where you love yourself a bit more. And so the different stages are pre-contemplation, contemplation, preparation, action, relapse, maintenance, and termination. And don't worry, I'm going to be explaining the different definitions of all of these words so that we're all on the same page. But before I start this podcast episode, before we fully dive into this, I have a few things to say. The first thing that I want to say is that this journey of self-love is difficult, and that different people will have different life experiences and different life circumstances, which will make this journey more or less simple, more or less streamlined. Different people have different levels of trauma, okay? So if you are somebody that has very little trauma, it's going to be a lot easier for you to go deep and follow this sort of like framework that I have to for you and get to this place of self-love. If you're somebody that has a lot more trauma, it will be a lot more difficult because you have to go a lot deeper to heal those things from the ground up. And that's not something I can do for you online like this, just in a podcast. And so if you recognize yourself in what I'm saying and you feel like you need more help, please do reach out for more help to professionals because I'm sure they'll be able to help you go deeper and heal from the ground up. And you too, it's not because you have more trauma than somebody else that you can't get to this place. You still can. And there's a lot of success stories out there of people that had a lot of trauma and that still made it out on the other side and are turning all of their shit basically into gold. And there's this girl that I follow on Instagram called Daniela Cura, and she basically says that the more shit you have means the more gold you have, but you have to transmute that into gold. So that was the first thing I have to say. The second thing is, as always, take what resonates, okay? If there's something that I say that doesn't resonate with you, that you don't agree with, that you don't think is true, just don't take it. Just leave it, put it to the bin, and just take what resonates. The last thing that I want to say is talking specifically to the people that are getting triggered right now, because I know that a lot of people get triggered the moment we talk about self-love. They're like, oh, but like, if you were stop loving yourself so much, and that means that you're just looking at yourself and you care about yourself too much, and this is selfish behavior, and like, oh my god, these days, like, these people on social media, they love themselves too much, and like, well, nothing is going to get done. And what about your kids, and what about your husband, and oh, your job? Like, okay, bestie, let's calm down, let's take a deep breath together, and let's calm down. If you're feeling triggered by anything that I'm saying, I'm here to tell you that first, you're probably in the right place to like talk about self-love and hear something about it. And I'm here to tell you that you can view life differently. And also probably the reason why you're reacting is because you're uncomfortable with this concept. You're uncomfortable with the concept that there is a possibility of life that you yourself do as well love yourself, and you can be like all of these people that you see that truly do love themselves and appreciate who they are and genuinely love their life as well. And that might come from a place where you grew up in a household or with people that told you that loving yourself and caring for yourself was selfish. It was unimportant, that you should put always other people first before you, because that's what a good girl, that's what a good boy does. But I'm here to tell you that we can reframe this. And Loving yourself is not a selfish act. If anything, it's an act of love towards yourself first, but also towards every single other person around you. Getting to a place where you truly love and appreciate yourself is getting to a place where you can truly love and appreciate other people in your life a lot more. And there's a massive, massive difference between loving yourself and self-love and being self-obsessed. I think the former, so self-love, is beneficial. It's an act where you will make the life of people around you so much better, so much brighter. Whereas the latter, so being self-obsessed, stems from a place of selfishness. And yes, that's true. That's not great. Being a selfish person and only thinking about yourself is probably not who you want to be. And we can probably all agree that that's not the best trait to have. Okay. But these people also need healing. They also need love to work through that and transmute that as well. And another way that I can help you see it a little bit differently, maybe, and realizing that self-love is not being selfish, is using this analogy, the empty cup analogy. If you're operating from a place where you think that self-love is not that important and it's only selfish and all you have to do, and the good thing to do in life is to actually take care of everybody else and take care of your kids and your partner and your parents and never think about yourself and put yourself last, then you're actually operating from a place where your cup, so your cup of happiness, joy, energy, is probably closer to being empty than being full, because you're spending most of your life just filling it, like pouring out of your cup into other people. So taking care of your kids, taking care of your partner, going to see your parents, going to see your friends, responding to the phone, taking care of your job, making money. So you're doing all of these things and you're basically pouring out of your cup consistently. And you're maybe once in a while, once in a blue moon, you're like, oh, I have time for myself. Let me go get a massage. Let me read a book. So sometimes once in a while, you do pour back in your cup a little bit. But pouring in your own cup is not a habit. So it's only, your cup can only get maybe half full. That's as much as it can go, because the rest of the time you're so busy pouring it out in other people. But imagine if you are in a place where you love yourself and you're putting yourself actually as a priority in your life, meaning that your happiness is the priority for you. Your joy, your peace, your growth is the priority for you. It's a habit for you to pour into your own cup. It means that at a certain point, if you're pouring in your cup every single day, your cup is probably overflowing, right? There's so much that you can fit in a glass, right? In a cup. So if your cup is overflowing, sorry guys, I was interrupted. My housemate came back and we just started to chat. So I'm just going to pick back up where I think I left off, which was, I think, talking about the cup. And if you're in a place where you're loving yourself and putting yourself first and doing all of these things, you're pouring in your cup all the time. And at some point, your cup will start to overflow. And if your cup starts to overflow, it means that you have extra, you have stuff to give. And the stuff that you give, you can now pour into other people's cups. So other people that you love in your life, your children, your partner, your parents, your friends, and you can now pour into their cups with, one, very little detriment to your own cup, but two, you can now pour more into them, because previously, if you're putting yourself last and you're pouring and pouring out of your cup that's already half full and getting emptier and emptier as we speak, because you're not making a thing to fill your own cup throughout the day or throughout your week, you can only give to people so much. And oftentimes, if you're not putting yourself first, it means that you're giving other people your scraps. You're giving other people your breadcrumbs. And nobody wants that. That's why self-love is not selfish. If you're coming from a place of self-love, you're actually being able to pour out so much more into other people's cups. You're able to actually give to the people that you love and appreciate in your life so much more quantity, but also so much more quality, which is, in my opinion, a win-win situation. And the reason why being and working from a place of self-love it really truly isn't a selfish thing. Because if you look at the outcome of it, it might be selfish for a bit while you're working on rebuilding your cup and getting your cup to overflow, or at least getting your cup to be full. That might be a bit more of a selfish time when you're really actively pouring so much of love into you and actively not doing as much at all for other people. But once you get to a point where your cup is consistently full, or consistently very close to being full, or consistently overflowing, then you can pour to other people all the time. You can be like, no, because I'm catering to myself already on a daily basis. It's now a habit. I can now actually pour out to other people so much more, and I can give them so much more. And so overall, net, it's not a selfish thing. It's actually allowing you to be a lot more selfless, ultimately. So I think it was really important for me to talk about this and talk to the people that are very reticent with this idea of self-love and basically tell you guys that it's not a selfish thing, and just trying to reframe that myth and debunk that myth together. So now that we've done that, let's move on to actually talking about how to start the self-love journey. And to do that, we're first going to be talking about the definition of every single point in time of the transtheoretical model. I'm going to be linking the link that I took these definitions from because I was too tired to paraphrase, and we're going to talk about all of these ones one after the other, just so that we're all on the same page with this terminology, but also so that you can maybe start to think a little bit in your head, where in this journey of change are you? So let's start off first with the first stage of the transtheoretical model, which is called the pre-contemplation stage. So the pre-contemplation stage is actually the time where people do not intend to take action in the foreseeable future. The foreseeable future is defined as within the next 6 months. Usually at this point in time, in the pre-contemplation stage, people are not aware that their behavior is problematic or that it produces negative consequences. And so people in this stage often underestimate the pros of changing behavior and place too much emphasis on the cons of actually changing behavior. So oftentimes you would have people that will tell you, for example, with self-love, no, I don't think self-love is necessary because it's such a selfish thing. Like thinking about yourself and doing things for your own self, that's too selfish for me. I can't do that to my kids or my partner, so no thank you, for example. Then the next stage is actually called contemplation. So at this point in time, they're at a point in time where they're starting to think about changing this behavior in the foreseeable future. So that's within the next 6 months, they're planning on changing that behavior. And people at this point in time, they also recognize that their behavior may be problematic, and they're thinking about the pros and cons in a much more thoughtful and considerable way, even though they are able to recognize that they may still have feelings of ambivalence towards changing this behavior. So it might be at a point in time where you have people that, again, with our example, they're like, oh, I do think that actually going on the self-love journey would be beneficial, but will people think that I'm selfish? And also, do I really want to do that? But like, it would be nice to be like one of my friends that like she really truly breathes like loving life and loving herself and just loving everything that she does. And so maybe I would like to be that, but also like, would I have to be so selfish to get there? So you do see what I mean? At this point in time, it's a lot more ambivalent. You're starting to see the nuance of it, and you're starting to see that maybe it's a good thing. Maybe it would be quite nice to get into a point where this behavior changes. The third stage is called preparation. And so at this point in time, people are ready. They've made the decision. They're ready to take action within the next 30 days. People start to take small steps towards the behavior change. And they believe that changing their behavior can lead to a healthier life. So at this point in time, people realize that, you know what? The pros of changing my behavior outweighs the cons. So being selfish for a short period of time, so to eventually be a lot more selfless and give so much more back to people because my cup is overflowing, that's so much more positive to me. And I no longer see a self-love journey as a journey that's only and blatantly, fully just selfish. And then the fourth step is called action. So at this point in time, people have recently started to change and they intend to keep moving forward with that behavior change. Okay, at this point in time, they're like, this is something that I want to continue doing and I want to continue acquiring more healthy behaviors towards this. And then after action comes lapse, which is basically a point in time where the person that had started to change their behavior stops doing that and goes back to their old behaviors. They go back to their old patterns. That's a lapse. A relapse is if you permanently go back to your old patterns and you don't continue the positive change. Whereas a lapse is just you stop that for a while and then you realize, oh God, I was not doing this. I went back to my old behavior. Let me go back to trying to take the actions towards positive change. And then you go back into the action. So you can basically, it's kind of like a circle, and you can get out of the loop of the model. You can go out of the loop of change into a lapse, and you can come back into the loop after a lapse back into action, or you can come out through lapse and then come fully out through the relapse. And then after action, so within the loop, you have maintenance. So at this point in time, people are maintaining and trying to maintain their behavior change beyond the first 6 months. So they've been doing this for a while and they really want to maintain this positive change going forward. And people in this stage often really try to prevent any lapses back into previous stages. So they prevent going back into pre-contemplation or contemplation, or just going back to the old behavior that they used to be having. And then the last stage is called termination. So that's basically, at this point in time, people reach a point where they know that they don't want at all to go back to their unhealthy behaviors, and they are certain that they will not be any lapses or relapses at all, because the behavior change has been fully integrated. So if we do a quick recap of the different stages of behavior change in this model, we have pre-contemplation, so no desire at all to change. Contemplation, you're starting to think about like, oh, maybe it would be a good thing to change. Maybe, but I'm not sure. I'm still like flip-flopping between the two. Then you have preparation. You've made a decision. I want to change, and I'm starting to think about how can I do that. Then you have action. You've started fully to change at this point in time, and you're taking actions towards taking your behavior change seriously and preventing lapses and relapses. Then you have maintenance. So really trying to take, like, you're at this point taking it a lot more seriously and actively preventing lapses and relapses. And then you have termination, which is the end of the cycle. And at this point in time, you've fully changed your behavior. You have no wants to go back, and you've completed the loop. And at every point in time, between every single stage, you can have lapses or relapses, which is points in time where you get out of the cycle and stop this sort of habit change model. And a lapse is if you stop it temporarily and then go back into it. And a relapse is when you stop it permanently. So now that we've talked about these different definitions, it might actually be good to maybe pause the podcast, pause the video for a bit, and think about which stage in this sort of model are you at right now in the self-love journey? Are you in pre-contemplation? Are you in contemplation? Have you already started taking action, but you find yourself lapsing a lot, or you've relapsed a few times and had to start all over again into contemplation? So whereabouts are you in this journey? Okay, now that you've done that, we can actually talk about the self-love journey a little bit more using this model. So let's start with pre-contemplation. So this is going to be very easy and very simple. If you're currently in pre-contemplation stage, it's very unlikely if you're in pre-contemplation stage that you're listening to this podcast, because you wouldn't think that there was an issue with anything that you're doing. So you would see the title, How to Start Your Self-Love Journey, and you wouldn't even click on it, because you would be like, well, that doesn't apply to me. I don't think that self-love is a thing. So pre-contemplation, I think, is very simple, and I won't really talk about it that much. Contemplation, what can you do to start your journey if you're at the contemplation stage right now? First of all, I think the most important thing for this in contemplation is to acknowledge the little voice in you that's telling you, hey, maybe we're not doing this right. Maybe there's a different way to do this. And maybe we're not actually in a place where we're healthily loving ourselves or loving ourselves at all. And so I think that's the most important thing in contemplation, is like acknowledging, even though there's this ambivalence, as we said in the definition, there's this ambivalence of the pros and cons, and you don't really know where you stand with the desire to change that behavior. I'm a big proponent that if there's something in you that's telling you, hey, maybe you can do this differently, oftentimes it's a little voice that you should listen to, because it's telling you subtly, but it's still telling you that there's probably something there to focus on, something there that will allow you to reach new heights. So I think in contemplation, that's the most important thing that you can do, is to actually identify and acknowledge, let yourself sit with the discomfort of realizing that, hey, we might not be actually in a place where we're having the most healthy behavior. We might be having a behavior right now that's not serving us anymore, and that has served us for a while, but now it's time to let it go. So I think that's the most important thing in contemplation. The other thing that I want to talk about in this topic, in this section, is the different types of self-love. Because self-love is so all-encompassing, it literally touches every single aspect of our lives. It comes in many forms, and I think that people often think of self-love as this thing which is like, oh, just buy yourself flowers, buy yourself candles, as I talked about, a very superficial, very symptomatic way of doing self-love. But actually self-love is very, very deep. There's a lot of things that you can do to show yourself love. And I'm going to talk about a few things because I think it's important for people that are in contemplation to realize that, yeah, self-love comes in a lot of different flavors. And boundaries, setting clear, strong, hard boundaries and upholding them is an act of self-love, and will allow you to as I said in my previous podcast, allow you to reach your goals and your dream life in a much quicker and safer way. Self-love is also taking your health seriously and treating your body as a temple, treating your body as the most important thing that you own, the most important home that you'll ever be able to take care of. That's also an act of self-love. An act of self-love is also taking your peace seriously, realizing that being stressed all the time is not conducive to having a healthy, happy, magnificent life. That's the type of self-love, to take your peace seriously and cut people out that don't contribute to your peace and actually cause more havoc in your life. That's an act of self-love. Taking time for yourself, taking some solo time, whatever that means to you. If it's going for a walk, if it's watching a movie, if it's painting your nails, if it's, painting, singing, acting, dancing, whatever it is. Taking some time for yourself is an act of self-love, because the best way to pour into your own cup is if you're actually pouring. If you're actually alone and you're doing a thing that actually brings you joy, then you're pouring into your own cup. Another type of self-love is allowing yourself to rest and listening to your body when it says stop. It says it's time to go to bed, or stop, I need 2 days off. Listening to that, that's a type of self-love. Another type of self-love is discipline. I don't think you were maybe expecting that, but discipline is one of the most beautiful acts of self-love, because it shows that you're taking your dreams, you're taking your goals seriously, and you're disciplined enough to wake up every day to work for them, you're disciplined enough to work for your dreams, and you believe in your dreams enough, and that will actually allow you to build more confidence over time and hopefully allow you to reach your dreams as well. And so being disciplined and doing what you say that you're going to do is probably one of the biggest acts of self-love, and I don't think that's something that people expect. People, as I said, a lot of the time expect self-love to be just buying yourself a candle and buying yourself flowers and, having a bath. The other type of self-love, I think, and there's so many others, but I'm just going to stick to 7, is going after what you want in life and truly listening to what it is that you want. And so if you're in a career that you don't like, pivoting. If you're in a relationship that you don't like, leaving that relationship and finding the one that will actually truly bring you joy. So all of these things, for all the people that are in contemplation right now, are acts of self-love. And so I know that right now is probably a time, as in the definition of ambivalence, you don't know if you want to go on this journey or not, but having an understanding of how broad self-love actually is will give you an idea of it's actually not such a simple definition. It's actually not such a simple way of looking at life, and there's so many things that I can do actually to foster this and to start this journey. And it doesn't have to be as difficult as I thought it was going to be, because maybe it seems very accessible to me to actually focus on my health for a bit, whereas focusing on boundaries and discipline right now is not too crazy. It feels a little bit too hard, but focusing on my health feels out of my comfort zone, but comfortable enough that I feel like I can do that. And yeah, you can start with that. That will still be starting your self-love journey. And once you've started with the health and you realize that you can do the health, you've stretched your comfort zone. And then you might realize now that I've started my comfort zone, maybe I want to stretch I want to work on my boundaries. And so you're going to stretch it again and again and again. So I'm just here to tell you as well, in contemplation, for the people that are in contemplation, that there's different types of self-love, and it's not just buy yourself candles and buy yourself flowers. Another thing that I want to say is talking about why doing this is beneficial. And I think that it's important for every single one of you in contemplation to think about, why is it that you want to do this? Why is it that you have this sort of ambivalence? Why is it that you're not in pre-contemplation? Why is it that you're thinking this might be a good thing actually for me? This could be something that I want to do. Why is it that you have this little voice in you that's saying, this could be good? So maybe take some time to reflect on that, because that might give you a few little answers and help you maybe move into preparation or move back into pre-contemplation. Because again, in life, nothing is good, nothing is bad. It might just not be the right time right now to focus on self-love, and you might have another aspect of your life that you want to work on. And so actually thinking about, why is it that you're ambivalent, why is it that you're thinking about this thing, will allow you to either go back into pre-contemplation and let this sort of self-love journey go for a bit and focus on something else. So you're allowing more of your energy to go to something that means more to you right now, or it will allow you to funnel more energy into the self-love journey and move into preparation and start actually changing your habits and your behaviors. So I think the most important thing for you now is for you to actually think about your why. But my personal whys that I think are important to talk about is the fact that like going on this journey of self-love will really transform for the better, but will really truly transform the relationship you have with yourself. And when you transform the relationship you have with yourself, you actually transform your life, because when you come from a place of so much more love towards yourself, there's a lot of things that you don't accept anymore. Your boundaries change, as I said in my previous podcast. The way you see life change, the things you allow yourself to do or not do change. And so your life will transform, but for the better. You will get closer and closer and closer to your goals, to your dreams, because now you are in a place where you accept that those dreams are tangible. You accept that those dreams are possible for you, because you're like, well, I have so much love for myself. I want to make those happen. I want to make those happen. I want to make myself proud. Think about it this way. A lot of the times parents love their kids so much. And if their kid is like, hey, like, I want this for my birthday. I want this birthday party. They're going to try their hardest to make it happen, whatever the means are. A lot of the times parents just want to see their kids happy, and they just want to be like, oh, they have this dream, they want this, and I just want so deeply to provide that for them, and see their face when they see, I don't know, like Elsa in the room, or like when they go to Disneyland for the first time. They just so deeply want to see that on their kid's face, because they want to see that pure joy and bliss. When you truly get to a point where you love yourself, or you start this journey, you become in a way your own parent, and you become in a way, you put yourself in a place where you want to see yourself succeed. You want to see your own face when you get to those dreams, because you want to make those happen for you. You realize that no longer is it going to be your parents providing that for you or somebody else. It's now your turn to provide for your own self. Again, coming back to the analogy of the cup, you're pouring into your own cup because you want to see your cup overflow. And the other thing is that when you have a better relationship with yourself and your whole life transforms and all of that, you will also have a better relationship with others, because everything in life is a mirror. I really, truly, wholeheartedly believe that everything in life is a mirror. And the more you love yourself, the more you can love others. The more you have to give to others, the more others will give back to you. Everything is always a mirror. So if you work and deepen your relationship with yourself, deepen the love that you have to give to yourself, you will inevitably deepen the love that you can give to other people. And that also is a beautiful, beautiful thing, because we're not, again, self-love is not a selfish thing. We're not meant to be doing life solo. We're not meant to be doing life solely for our own sake and our own gain and our own selfish reasons. Life is also about community and being with other people, and actually working on the self-love will allow you to do those things ultimately. And I think that's a really beautiful thing. So these are the things that I wanted to say for people that are in contemplation, and maybe helping you move a little bit between, do I want to get to actually start this journey really, or am I a little bit still, actually it's not my priority right now. And the last thing actually that I want to say is that we've talked about the different types of self-love. And because there are different types of self-love, you can be thriving in a certain department of self-love, but not thriving at all, or failing even in another part. So maybe you're in a place where you have super, super, super good health. You're taking a lot of care of your health, and that's something that you're really, really good at. But actually, your boundaries are really lacking. And so do you see what I mean? Like, as I said, self-love is so all-encompassing, but it's also not like, it has so many different streams that it works on, so many different aspects of your life that it works on, that you can be good at one aspect but not as good as another. And in this contemplation phase where you're ambivalent and wondering, what is it that I want to do? Is that something that I want to do? You might actually want to reflect on, okay, is there something that I'm actually good at right now in self-love? Because they might be a point of, you might realize that actually I'm really good at this aspect of self-love, and I didn't even realize that it was me loving myself actually. But I'm actually realizing, no, it is a version of loving myself. So I can actually do this. But do I want to actually work on a different aspect now and deepen the self-love and get a second aspect of that whole all-encompassing self-love journey in my pocket, in my bag, that I can do correct, that I can do well, and that I'm comfortable with? So I think that's what I had to say for contemplation phase, for the people that are in this stage of contemplation. For what I have to say for preparation, so preparation is when you've decided that to make the change. What I have to say for the people that are in this stage is, first of all, to get to the stage of preparation, you have to get to a point where you've decided, right, that this is something that you want to do. Going on the self-love journey is something that you want to do. Whatever the self-love journey looks like, if it's working on your health, if it's working on time for yourself, if it's working on your peace, if it's working on your dreams and your goals, if it's working on your discipline, whatever it is. The first thing you have to do is to decide that this is something that you want. And a lot of the times there's two different ways to decide. There's two different ways to get to preparation. The first one is the easy one. The first one is the one where you've decided, your brain was like, you know what, this is something I want to do. I want to get to a point where I reach self-love. This is something that I want to do. And so you go through the stages slowly but surely, pre-contemplation, contemplation. Now you're preparing, right? You've decided this is something I want to do. Exactly what I was talking about. You reflect and you decide, do I want to invest more time in this? Do I want to actually work on this behavior change? That's option one. Option two is often, in my opinion, is the more common way. But I think it's the way that people don't expect as much. And that's because that's the massive life curveball that's thrown at you. You're not expecting it. You were not ever thinking, oh, maybe this is something I want to do. You might have, but you were like, you were hesitant. You were really hesitant and you were really not thinking about it at all that much. But life throws something at you. Life throws you a massive curveball that forces you, thrusts you into this journey. It's almost as if life throws you a curveball from behind and you were just standing on the top of the cliff and this curveball actually propels you into the cliff. And so now you have no other choice than to learn how to fly. You have no other choice than to prepare and start acting on the self-love journey. So these are the two different ways. So as well, a lot of the times you might actually arrive and just be in preparation mode. Be like, okay, this is something that I have to do because now I have no other choice. I didn't actually choose to be here. I was thrusted into it by life. The second thing that I think is important for people in preparation is to decide what it is that you want to change and choose only one area first. As I said, the self-love journey is so all-encompassing. It touches so much of different areas of life that you can't do everything at once. You're only one person. So one thing at a time, step by step. The most important thing is that you're still moving. If you're still moving, it means that you're going somewhere. It means that you're reaching new things and that you're growing and that you're improving, okay? But let's focus on one thing. So what is it that you want to focus on first? What is it what part of the self-love journey do you want to work on? Is it you want to work on your mindset and the way you think about yourself? Is it you want to work on your health and all of these different types of self-love that we've talked about before? A way to go about it and decide is you might have something already in your heart that tells you this is what I want to do, and so do that. Other people, you might want to start with the thing that feels the easiest because it feels like if you don't have that much energy right now to spare, you might want to do the thing that stretches your comfort zone the least. And for other people, you might actually want to throw yourself in the deep end and do the thing that feels the scariest because you know that the scarier something feels, the bigger the transformation you can get, right? If you're doing, it's kind of like an investment. If you're trying to change something that feels super, super uncomfortable to you and that changes, your life will change a lot more than if you change the thing that feels super, super comfortable to you because your life won't change that much because you won't have that much resistance. You won't have that much resistance to the change and things will feel a lot easier. Whereas the harder something feels a lot of the times, the bigger the transformation you can actually get on the other side of it. Not always, but often. And then the third thing that you can do in preparation is to start preparing your brain, conditioning your brain. So your brain is an amazing organ, but your brain is an organ that loves to do things the same way. Once it has a neural pathway, it will want to just reuse and reuse and reuse that neural pathway as much as it can because it's once the neural pathway is created, that's the simplest way for your brain to do a decision, and that's the most energy efficient way. And your brain does not like to use that much energy. So now you're going to be trying to do something different. You're going to be trying to take different decisions and change your behavior, right? You're starting a new journey. You're starting the self-love journey. So you're going to put your brain in an uncomfortable situation where you're going to try to change its neural pathways. And so how can you do that? And how can you help your brain through this transition? The first thing that I think is important is that you can actually do visualization exercises. So as I said in my class about boundaries, visualization exercises are exercises that athletes and musicians and a lot of other people do, where they basically close their eyes and visualize what it is that they're going to do. So they visualize their gymnastic routine, or they visualize the song that they have to sing, or they visualize exactly which point of the violin they have to touch and how they're going to use the bow and what point, and they really visualize the whole thing in in very granular detail. Your brain thinks that whatever you're thinking is real. It can't decide, oh no, that was just a thought and that was not reality. The other thing that you can actually do is that as much as your brain hates change, as I said, your brain is not good at knowing what is real from what is not real. So whenever you tell your brain will think that it's truth. If you repeat something over and over again, your brain will actually start believing it. And so if you are struggling with something, if you want to maybe for more self-love, you can actually start listening to meditations about self-love. You can actually start repeating yourself certain mantras, being like, I'm deserving of love, I'm worthy of love, taking time for myself is not selfish, I'm actually being self-love, whatever it is that feels good to you. But you can start repeating certain mantras to yourself over and over again every single day, and your brain will start believing them. You can be like, I'm worthy of love, I'm enough, I'm worthy of love. And you can do that, but also you can, if you don't want to do that, you can actually also listen to certain meditations, as I said, but you can also do some hypnosis work, some with Marissa Peer. So you can have videos that she has online for free. I might link a few down in the description that can help you actually change the way your brain thinks about self-love and foster a lot more self-love for yourself. And you can listen to those videos over and over again, and that will really, really help. And the other thing you can do that I talk about a lot is EFT tapping, to help you with this conditioning of your brain. Now let's move on to the action stage. So what can you do in the action stage? So when you get to the stage of action, I think the first thing you have to do is to start with forgiveness. Start again with forgiveness and realize that a lapse or a relapse is very likely. Again, we're all human, and again, your brain loves to do things the same way, so it will probably force you. You will have to really work so hard against it, especially if you haven't done a lot of conditioning of your brain before that, to get to a place where you're not relapsing. But if you start with forgiveness, you've already eliminated that process of feeling bad, of like, oh my God, I relapsed, this was not good, No, it's okay, we're all going to do that. The moment you're trying to do something hard, do something new, you're going to stumble, you're going to fall, and that's okay. So let's start with forgiveness. The next thing when you're in action is do the thing that you said you were going to do, because the more you do it, first of all, the more you're building this new neural pathway in your brain, but also the more you're building your self-trust and your self-confidence that you do things that you say you will, which also is a level of self-love. So in action, actually act. The third thing is, I think would be quite good in this part of this journey of self-love, is to track how you feel about it. How easy and how effortless does this feel to you when you do this, when you're taking the action, when you're in this journey of self-love? How does it feel? And start tracking it, because you might actually realize over time, when you look back on your journal, that maybe 2 weeks ago you were feeling a certain way about it, and now 2 weeks later you're feeling so much different. You're feeling so much better. It feels so much easier. And so you can actually realize the difference you make, because a lot of the times you don't see change in life from one day to another. You see change over time. But because the change is so gradual, you personally don't feel it. And it's only when you've either written it down or you take intentional time to reflect and go back into how you were feeling a few months ago or a few weeks ago that you realize, oh my gosh, I've come a long way. So if you're tracking it, it'll be a lot easier for you to actually see those changes a lot better. And I think that's honestly the only thing I have to say in action, because the people that are in action, it's just time to act. It's time to do it. Now let's move on to maintenance. So maintenance starts in the definition at the 6-point mark. So when you've done this behavior change for 6 months, you're now in the maintenance stage. So you're now really actively trying to prevent relapses, and doing this behavior change is a lot more important to you. You're not at the very beginning stage, like, oh yeah, I'm going to go to the gym and I'm going to do this. No, now you've done it for 6 months, but you're not at the point yet where the behavior change has fully materialized. It's not fully done yet. So what can you do at maintenance? I think the most important thing is kind of the same thing as the end of action, is to journal and see how you feel about it all, and kind of look back and reflect on this whole journey, because at this point it's been 6 months. Guys, if you're in maintenance, it's been 6 months that you've been on this journey. 6 months is half of a year. It's quite a considerable chunk of time. And so taking time to actually reflect on how you feel, reflect on this whole journey as well, will probably give you the boost that you need to be like, oh my gosh, I've done this. I've done already so much, and I'm closer than I ever was to getting to where I want to be. And it's almost like when you're in maintenance, you probably have a lot to think about and a lot to reflect on. the things that have already happened and materialized in your life that you did not think were possible when you first started this journey, right? When you were in contemplation, like if you're in maintenance, think about the way you thought about your life when you were actually in contemplation. And think about how your life looked like when you were in contemplation. And you might actually see that there's a lot of massive differences actually when you compare the two. And you'd be like, oh my gosh, my life has changed so much. And that might actually give you the boost you need, especially if at this point in time, you're kind of close, like, you know what, why am I even doing this for? I'm not sure. I can't see materialized change really. I don't know how I feel about it. If you actually start reflecting on it, you might realize, oh my God, like, no, like there's so much positive things that has happened and that will continue to happen. It might actually give you the boost you need to like run a little bit more all the way to termination. And then at termination, obviously that's the point. People that are there, you probably have clicked off of this video because you don't really need my help. You've done it already. And so you have your own framework, you have your own techniques. But at this point, you probably reach new levels. You don't want to go back. You realize the importance of self-love. You know that it's not selfish. And you realize as well how much you can now do for other people. And you can actually see that a lot more in your life. And you haven't relapsed. And that actually brings us nicely to the next bit of it, which is talking about relapses and how to deal with those. So as I said, relapses and lapses are any point in time where you actually get off of this model of the circle and you get off of one of those stages and you go back to your old behavior. So again, when you go into a lapse or a relapse, just again, have forgiveness for yourself and realize that you will make mistakes and that's okay. Getting to termination is not a simple, streamlined journey. It will have your ups and your downs. As I always say, it's not because you've now decided that you want to do the self-love journey that your whole life will be put on pause, that your whole life will stop. That's not how it works. You will still have all of the other things that you have to do in your life. If you're a student, you still have to go to school, you still have to take care of your kids, you still have to eat, drink, you still have life does not stop, basically. And so when you're adding something new into your life, you're adding a little bit more pressure, right? And so you will obviously at some point probably make a mistake, drop the ball a little bit, go back into what feels comfortable because you can't be bothered, frankly, to force your brain to think in a different way. So just have forgiveness and just know in your heart and just make the decision in your heart that you will go back into the model of change, and that you will go back to the action, you will go back to the preparation, and that the time when you actually go back, you're going back stronger because you know that you can come back from a relapse and you know that you can combat setbacks. And so actually a relapse oftentimes makes you stronger, especially if you go through a relapse and decide to come back, you're actually a lot more stronger than you were before. You know, anytime something breaks and you are able to repair it, you can repair it, it becomes a lot stronger. You're adding so much more glue to it. It's so much stronger and so much less likely to break again. That's how I think about it. It's the Japanese thing of a broken heart and then you actually fix it with golden glue. Actually, we've now reached the end of this podcast a little bit abruptly. But I'm just realized that I don't think I have anything else to say. And my energy has been fully drained through this whole filming process. But yeah, I hope that this video was helpful to you. I hope that you were able to get something out of it. And wherever you are on this journey of self-love, if it's just at the beginning, if it's somewhere in the middle, I hope you were able to find a few tips and hear a few words of encouragement that could help you on this. Again, as I said at the beginning, that's my goal. My goal for you is to reach to a point where your decisions that you make change, and through that your life also changes. That's really what I want for you guys through this whole thing. So yeah, I hope that you enjoyed this. And the other thing that I want to remind you is that once you've decided to go on this journey, there will be a ripple effect. You going on this journey and having other people watch you go through this and see how much brighter, beautiful, blissful life is, they probably will want to go on that journey too. And then people in their lives will see them and be like, I want to go on this journey too. And so a ripple effect will happen and will hopefully make the world a lot better, a little bit brighter. And that's, frankly, why not? Why not have a world where people are all filling up their cups and all of our cups are overflowing and we can kind of just all all pour in each other's cups and it's just kind of all beautiful. Obviously that's kind of idealistic, but why not believe that a world like that could be possible? So yeah, I'm gonna end it here. I really hope that you enjoyed it. If you did, please subscribe to my channel, like this video, share this video with other people that could benefit from it as well. If you're listening on a podcast platform, please subscribe to my podcast. Please leave a review. if you can, and share this podcast with anybody else that you think that could benefit from it as well. And without further ado, I'm going to go because this camera is flashing, my SD card is full, and I'm frankly I'm frankly like monopolizing the living room, and my housemate is probably hungry, so it's time to go. But yeah, I really hope you enjoyed this. I love you guys, and I'll see you guys soon. Bye.